My what if is not quite 1980 or 81. It's 1992.
Mm,
And this
yep.
is what if the Falcons didn't trade Brett Favre? So they drafted him in the second round in 1992. From what I've read about that time period, he was really immature. I guess he's still pretty immature from what we know about him now. But at the time, they said they used to call him something like the Buckhead Crawler or something because he would always go up to that neighborhood and he was always at the bars and he was drinking heavily and he was really immature. And Jerry Glanville, the Falcons coach at the time, wasn't a fan of that. He didn't like that gunslinger approach that he brought. He wanted a little more conservative quarterback play than what he was getting from Brett Favre. So they end up trading him, I think, just after his rookie year for a first round pick to the Packers. And of course, he goes to the Packers, wins the Super Bowl, becomes a Hall of Famer, all that stuff. Uh, but obviously, this is a huge what if, not just in Falcons history, but in NFL history because it changes the trajectory of the whole 90s, even into the 2000s. Uh, did you know about the fact that they liked Brett Favre, but Jerry Glanville didn't like him and thought he was immature?
Um, that particular era, I was born in 90, so this is 91, 92. Um, NFL Films did a expose on that era of calling it the too legit to quit era. If you're familiar with Andre Rison, Deion Sanders, MC Hammer was there on the sidelines, Evander Holyfield at the time. Atlanta was booming with the hip hop culture. So, to that, what if I ask this question? What if Dion also had stayed with Brett Favre? A lot of people probably wouldn't catch this being Falcon fans, but had he stayed here in Atlanta, that is 93, 94, 95, and 96. Your 49ers won the Super Bowl in 94. Your Cowboys win back to back in 92 and 93. Had Dion stayed here, I think we would have had a shot to contend more for the NFC West Championship. And with Brett Favre at quarterback, him coming into his own 92, 93, 94, where he was doing multiple MVP seasons, we
Mm-hmm.
would have a Super Bowl in the 90s, especially if he were the quarterback and went back to back against John Elway, Super Bowl 32 and 33. That one, Dan Reeves will have a Super Bowl ring on his ledger. God rest his soul.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy connection to make. I mean, I know Dion was there a couple years before Brett Favre, but he ends up leaving because of the team struggles. He wanted to go to a winning franchise, which he does. Or did obviously. He went to two, and he ended up winning a Super Bowl, both the Niners and the Cowboys. I'm not sure. I forget how many Super Bowls he has total, but he's
Two.
got enough. He's
He's
got two.
got to.
Okay,
He's got to.
one each. So, and then Brett Favre has the one, and then he ends up. I think they go back to back, but they lose to the Broncos the
They
next year.
do. They win they lose the NFC Championship game that got them. Well, the Cowboys got them in '95. They lost. So '96, he also enters rehab and all that stuff. He still has issues with alcohol and pills and all that stuff.
Yeah, painkillers. I think.
He develops a friendship with Reggie White, and he wins his Super Bowl in New Orleans. And then he goes back to back, as you mentioned, as a double digit favorite against John Elway and the Broncos. And for a minute, I thought they were going to win it, and then somehow they just don't win it. So yeah, there's a what if Dion and Brett Favre been on the same team. Had they been on the team,
Mm-hmm.
would we have a Super Bowl from the '90s?
I think it's pretty fair to say for sure. You get two Hall of Famers, Hall of Famer on each side of the ball that's able to galvanize the rest of the team. You got a great coach. the fact that you guys made the Super Bowl a few years. I think it was '97, which is coming up later on my what ifs. But you had the team there. You just maybe didn't have the quarterback that could take you over the top, and that would have been Brett Favre if he had cleaned up his act. So